So on Easter morning 3 weeks ago, the vibe here was a little different. The pews were packed to the gills. People were dressed a little fancier. Our always fabulous choir was accompanied by brass and timpani, and already over-sugared children were wound up in anticipation of the Easter egg hunt. Now, today we find ourselves on the third Sunday of Easter. Things have returned to normal. I will remind you that our pews are a little less full this morning because about 100 folks, including Charlie and Gwen, are at Shrinemont for our parish retreat. They are praying for us this morning, just as we are praying for them. But if you've been paying attention, you might have noticed that in these early weeks of the Easter season, a theme is emerging in our readings. We keep hearing accounts of dramatic encounters with the risen Christ. Think back to our gospel reading on Easter Day. Mary Magdalene goes to the tomb of her dear friend Jesus, certain that he is dead. Then she turns, sees him, mistakes him for the gardener. When he says her name, she recognizes him, and she runs in awe to tell the other disciples that she has seen the risen Lord. Last week, Gwen preached a beautiful sermon about the disciples' experience of encountering the risen Christ on the road to Emmaus. The disciples did not recognize him until he joined them for dinner. As he broke bread, they suddenly realized who the stranger among them was. And then there is the familiar story of doubting Thomas. Poor Thomas missed Jesus' appearance to the disciples, and he refused to believe their accounts. He was certain that Jesus was dead. Until I see the marks of the nails in his hands, I will not believe, he says. Then Jesus appears to him and shows him those marks, and Thomas responds in awe. My Lord and my God, he says. Now we come to this morning's reading from Acts. Remember that the church was in its infancy, and up to this point, Saul has been ruthless in persecuting the new followers of Jesus. He was so self-righteous about his own faith, so certain in his own convictions, that he was actively seeking these new followers out, looking to arrest them and possibly kill them. But while he was on his way to Damascus, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him and knocked him to the ground. And he heard the voice of Jesus. Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? Get up and go to the city and wait for further instruction. Our reading today stops there, but I will remind you of the rest of the story. Saul's friends helped him up as he remained blind. What a sight it must have been as they led him into town. This man, so powerful, so notorious for terrorizing the early Christians, now shocked and helpless at his encounter with the risen Christ. The text tells us that for 3 days he sat like that in stunned silence, not eating or drinking or able to see. Then God sent a disciple, Ananias, to Saul, and Ananias anointed him with the Holy Spirit. He regained his sight, was baptized, got a bite to eat, and emerged as Paul, the chief evangelist of the church. In each of these stories, we see these dramatic moments of conversion. First, there is the moment of recognition, of going either literally or figuratively from blindness to sight. Mary Magdalene at the tomb and the disciples on the road and Thomas and Paul have these tangible encounters with the risen Christ in which he is revealed to them. These accounts are powerful and moving, but I must admit that they are foreign to my own experience with God. I don't know about you, but I have not had a lightning bolt moment like that. And I wonder if what really resonates with us in this Easter season is the deeper transformation that they experience as they move from certainty about what they thought to be true to awe in the presence of God. This kind of conversion from certainty to awe is what I think we are called to in our lives of faith. It is our human nature to crave certainty. Particularly in our modern world, we are uncomfortable with that which we cannot fully control or understand. I recently heard an interview with Father Richard Rohrs, the Franciscan friar who writes about Christian mysticism. In the interview, he described how this need for certitude emerged from the Enlightenment era of the 17th and 18th centuries, when discoveries in science and medicine were suddenly providing answers to what had previously been unknowable. Humans emerged from that era with a sense of entitlement and an expectation for proof. Unlike our ancient ancestors, for whom uncertainty was a way of life, we began to value predictability and definitive answers. I'll admit that I can't go a day without checking the hourly weather forecast on my phone. I want to know what's coming. In the stories that we hear this Easter season, what makes the dramatic experiences of Mary Magdalene and the disciples on the road and Thomas and Paul, what makes those inspiring isn't just their moment of recognition of the risen Lord in their midst. It is their relinquishing of certitude of what they had believed to be true. In the presence of God, they embraced wonder and awe. And perhaps that is our challenge as modern disciples. We may be tempted to long for a lack of ambiguity, but faith is about a deeper transformation of resting in mystery, and in fact, celebrating mystery. I'll return to that interview I heard with Richard Rohrs. He said, "People who have had any kind of genuine spiritual experience always know that they don't know. They are utterly humbled before mystery. They are in awe before the abyss of it all and wonder at a love which is incomprehensible to the mind." The irony, of course, is that many religious people insist on having answers when the acceptance of not knowing is, in fact, the definition of faith. It is the essence of what it means to believe in a God who is beyond proof or explanation or control. The Easter story is one of transformation, from death to resurrection, from despair to hope, from darkness to light. And in the stories of this season, we see Mary Magdalene and the disciples on the road to Emmaus and Thomas and Paul experience their own transformations as they encounter the risen Christ. In each case, their eyes and hearts are opened as what they thought they knew gives way to the promise of new life. This process of discovery continues for us here and now. Where might the Spirit be calling us to abandon our quest for certainty and lean into the mystery of faith? As scary or unfamiliar as it may seem, it is the path of wonder and awe. It is the journey of resurrection as we proclaim once more, "Alleluia, Christ is risen. Christ is risen indeed. Alleluia."